Hi everyone, and thank you all for coming. Hope you've all had a good day. It doesn't feel like Tuesday, does it? It does feel like it should be Friday. Wish it was Friday. Anyway, I'm just going to share my screen. I've got some slides, but I promise I haven't got many. It won't be death by PowerPoint. Oh, hang on, what's this? Is this me? Is this me? Yeah, this is me. Okay. Move this out of the way. I don't want to share. I want to present. Here we go. Present. Go to the. Sorry, I'm right at the end now of my presentation. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you today about mindset and how it can really help you when you've been through a divorce or a breakup in particular, or a separation. But actually, a lot of what I'm saying kind of applies to all different kinds of scenarios. So a little bit about me. I'm a divorce, breakup and mindset coach. I was divorced about 6 years ago. I'm a single parent to a 12-year-old daughter. I work mainly with women, but my tips can be used by everyone. And I'm certified with the Institute of Leadership, so I am an accredited coach. And the reason why I focus on mindset is because I went through a really quite traumatic divorce 6 years ago. I had no idea it was coming. My husband came home one day and just told me he was leaving. So it was, pretty devastating. And I was in a very, very low place for a long time. And it took me a while to kind of get out of that. And the way I kind of rebuilt my life was really to use a lot of mindset techniques and to really start building my self-esteem and my confidence, because they took a massive blow when I got divorced. And shortly after I got divorced, I was made redundant, and I also was diagnosed with a blood clotting disorder. So I had all these things kind of happen to me at once, and I knew that I couldn't kind of keep feeling the kind of negative thoughts that I was thinking and kind of low self-esteem. So I used mindset to kind of help me get over the divorce and everything else that was happening to me. And now I'm a coach. I've been a coach for a couple of years, and I really want to kind of be able to show people that it is possible to rebuild your life and to create a life that you really want, after something as, and as traumatic as a divorce. And, divorce is incredibly traumatic, as is a relationship breakup. They're incredibly traumatic experiences, and they can have a huge effect on our lives. So, I've got notes, actually. Just if you see me look away, it's because I'm looking at my notes, because I can't just wing it. I'm not very good at that. And also I'm perimenopausal, so I forget things quite a lot. So I'm going to focus on 3 areas today, and how we can use our mindset to help us boost our self-esteem, stop being a victim, and accept and move on and start rebuilding our lives. Accept and let go. Stop being a victim. It sounds quite harsh, but hopefully you'll see what I mean when I get to that slide. So just really quickly, a definition of mindset, if you didn't really know what mindset was. It's a set of beliefs that shape how we make sense of the world and ourselves, influences how we think, feel and behave in any given situation. There's a lot of science, a lot of neuroscience behind mindset. And research shows that mindset plays a significant role in determining life's outcomes. By understanding, adapting and shifting your mindset, you can improve your health, decrease your stress and become more resilient to life's challenges. Now, when I first heard about kind of mindset, I'd always associated it with athletes and sports people who had to be very focused on what they were doing. But the more I looked into it, the more I realised that there's so much that kind of crosses over into so many different areas. So this is just a slide about how divorce and breakup can affect your mindset. Can make us feel like a failure, can cause us to be very anxious and worry about the future, can leave us with a very low self-esteem, can affect our confidence, can lead to worry about how we rebuild our lives, and it can cause us to sit in our victim state, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So the first thing I'll talk about is how to stop feeling like a victim. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the drama triangle. It's something that a lot of therapists use, and it explains how we sometimes take on unhelpful roles in relationships. And there's three main areas of the drama triangle. One is the rescuer, and that's where you're very much, I'll help you do that, I'll rescue you from, you know, whatever is going on in your life. The second point of the triangle is the persecutor. So that's when you're, you know, it's all your fault. It's your fault I'm behaving like this. It's your fault that the marriage didn't work out. It's your fault that you left. And the third point in the triangle is the victim. And that's when you go into kind of poor me state. And I'm focusing on victim because it's quite common for people to feel like a victim when they've come out of a relationship, because they want someone to blame, so they, you know, become a persecutor. But it is you can start to feel sorry for yourself. And I'm not saying for one moment that it's not okay to feel sorry for yourself sometimes, because being a single parent, you know, if you're, you know, if you've been through a divorce and you're a single parent, it is hard work. It is hard work being a single parent. You know, we all know how difficult it can be. So it's okay to sometimes think, you know what, I am going to feel a little bit sorry for myself because life is hard. So I'm not saying that you can't ever be a victim, because that's not real life. You know, we all do feel like a victim sometimes. But what happens is we can stay in our victim, and it can really alter our mindset and the way we think about ourselves and our mental health. So staying in that kind of everything is going wrong, you know, we all have those moments, don't we, where, you know, you feel like the universe is conspiring against you. You know, you've had a bad day and it's one thing after another, and we just start feeling really sorry for ourselves. And it can make us feel, it can cause inertia, it can cause us to kind of sit in that victim state and not be positive. So how do we step out of our victim? What can we do to stop feeling like it's, you know, poor me, the universe is, you know, conspiring against me? And the first step really is to recognize when you're in victim state. Recognize when you are feeling like poor me, you know, why does this always happen to me? And then the second point is that when we need to stop blaming other people for our situation. And that can sound really hard. Like when I coach women who've been through divorce or breakup, and I say to them, you need to stop blaming your ex-husband, your ex-partner. And they go, well, but why? You know, it is his fault. It is their fault. It is her fault. But you've got to step out of that in order to move on with your life. Because if you stay stuck in that blame culture, you're never going to be able to move on, because you're constantly blaming someone else for the things that are happening in your life. We have to remember that we have the power to control our feelings and our responses to people. And so in order to kind of step out of victim, we need to take some responsibility for the way we're showing up. So, you know, if our ex-partner is coming to us and being difficult, we immediately go into victim and, oh, you know, why are you doing this to me? Poor me. instead of thinking, okay, I'm not going to respond like that anymore, I'm going to respond in a way that it works for me. And that might be that you just let it go. You just let whatever your ex-partner is doing or saying, is just not focus so much on the kind of the negativity, but just think, okay, I can't control the way he or she shows up. I can only control my feelings. So instead of being a victim, I'm going to become the creator. And so being a creator is the opposite of being a victim. So it's about creating a new life for yourself and not sitting in the shit, for want of a better word, but getting out of that victim state and start to make choices for you. Start to think about how you want your life to be. What is it you want out of life? Is there, are there things that you could never do before, when you were married? It's about taking control and clarifying what you want from life. And one of the best ways to get out of victim state is to start practicing gratitude, because when you feel grateful, it is almost impossible to feel like a victim. So one of the things that I often tell my clients to do is to just spend 5 minutes every morning or every evening being grateful for your warm bed, your house. There are so many things that we have that we take for granted. If we really think about our lives and how fortunate we are in so many ways, it is impossible almost to feel like the victim, because we are so lucky compared to lots of other people. So that's something that I always recommend my clients do every single day. So make it a part of your daily routine. So as soon as you wake up, give 5 things that you're grateful for that day. And the same in the evening as well. And it's also a great thing to do with children. I do it every day with my daughter. We sit down and we just say, right, what can we be grateful for today? And you can be grateful for everything. So when it's raining, you can be grateful that it's raining, because it means that the grass is green. And, so it's just about kind of reframing all, situations and seeing the good in them. And if you have any questions, please, put in the chat, and I'm happy to answer. And I haven't got many slides because I do want to kind of focus on questions and having a chat. So yes. So acceptance is a massive part of mindset and coming to terms with a divorce or a relationship breakup. And when we accept a situation and the part we did or didn't play in it, we can start to let go. Acceptance isn't the same as forgiveness, but it's the first step to forgiveness. And when we go through a divorce or a relationship breakup, we often hold on to those feelings of bitterness and anger. And these feelings have a huge impact on how we show up every day. And I read a quote recently and it really resonated with me. And it said, forgiveness is for you, not them. A lot of women that I work with, because I mainly work with women, find that forgiveness can be quite an activating word, because you might not be ready to forgive your partner for what they did. Especially if, in my situation where my husband walked out on me and my then 6-year-old daughter, that was hard to forgive, really hard to forgive. And it was a long time before I could even contemplate forgiving. So what I did was I started with acceptance, and I accepted what had happened, and I accepted that I had no control over what he did. It was his decision. It had nothing to do with me. And that's another thing about kind of relationship breakdown, especially if it wasn't instigated by you, is that you can feel like it was your fault. It was my fault this happened. And you have to accept the fact that it wasn't your fault. It had nothing to do with you. You can't control how other people feel. And that is the key, really, to accepting and move and letting go. If we don't let go of those feelings, of that anger, I remember having that kind of, I don't know if anyone else has said it resonates, but that kind of pit of, it was like an anger in the pit of my stomach that just wouldn't go away. It was there all the time. I was just so incredibly angry at what he did. And it took me a really long time to get over that. But once I did, it was like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, and I could finally kind of feel free of that anger and that kind of, it's just that pit of your stomach kind of knot that's always there, and every time you see that person, that anger just comes back, and you have to let it go, because if you don't, it's going to affect you for the rest of your life. You know, you see women that have been, and men who have been through a divorce, and they're bitter still 20 years later, and it's not serving them, it's not serving anyone, and it means that they're just not able to move on with their life. And you've got to think about it. Is that what you want? Do you want to live with that anger for the rest of your life? Because it will affect you every single day. So accepting is so important, and it may take you a while to kind of move from acceptance to forgiveness. I think I've definitely now moved into the forgiveness stage, and I have let go. You know, my husband has remarried, ex-husband has remarried, he's got a child, and I feel nothing. I feel completely free of those feelings, and I'm focusing on me and my life and how I want my life to look now. And that's so important, that you just start moving on, letting go, and creating the life that you want, because otherwise you're going to be stuck in that negative place forever. So acceptance is really the key to letting go. And the last thing I want to talk about is confidence and self-esteem, because I know from experience that when you go through something like a divorce, a relationship breakup, suddenly become a single parent, your confidence and your self-esteem can take a huge hit, because often you'll feel like it was your fault in some way. You can feel like a failure, you can feel shame, and all these things start to have a huge effect on our confidence and our self-esteem. And when we work on our mindset, we can become more confident and our self-esteem grows. We can start letting go of judgment. We can start not worrying about what other people think of us, because that is huge. For a lot of people that have been through a divorce, or a breakup, or a single parent, that there's this huge kind of worry about what other people are thinking, and working on our mindset can really help us let go of that judgment. And once you let go of judgment, and once you stop worrying about what other people think, it frees you. You kind of get to that stage where you just don't care what other people think, and it means that you will just do things that you may have never done before, because you're always worried about what the school mums at the gate might be thinking, or your neighbour, or those people that your friends that you went to university with. We let go of that judgment, and it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter what people think about us. We also can become, when we work on our mindset, we can become more aware of our negative thoughts. And those thoughts, we have them every single day. We have something like 80,000 thoughts a day, and 80% of those thoughts are negative, and 20% of those negative thoughts are repeated. So we give ourselves a really hard time. You know, if you think about the number of things that you tell yourself every single day that make you feel rubbish, you know, like I dropped something that, you know, earlier on today, and you immediately, oh God, you're so clumsy, you're so clumsy. Instead of just, you know, picking it up and you know, we just give ourselves such a hard time. And I always say to my clients, would you imagine talking to your child like that? Imagine talking to your best friend the way that you talk to yourself. You wouldn't talk to your best friend or your child like that. So we need to stop talking to ourselves like that, because once we do, then our self-esteem and our confidence will start to grow. I've got a few tips on how you can start to boost your confidence and your self-esteem, so I'll just run through them. The first one is affirmations. Now, a lot of people, when I say, oh, you need to start saying affirmations every day, kind of go, I'm not doing that. I'm not looking in the mirror and telling myself I'm wonderful. You must. It's the only way you're going to start boosting your self-esteem, because if you can't love yourself, you know, it's, you know, that old cliche, but if you can't love yourself, then no one else will. You know, if you can't love yourself, then why should other people love you? So affirmations are a great way of just giving yourself a little confidence boost every day. You can have maybe 3 or 5 affirmations that you write that mean something to you, that you say every single day. And what those affirmations are doing, and this is all grounded in science and neuroscience, is we have neural pathways that go to our brain that send messages to our brain. And that's why we have all those negative thoughts, because we have these established neural pathways that are telling us that we're clumsy, we're stupid, we eat too much, we're not thin, we need to exercise more. All these thoughts, we're lazy, they're established because we tell ourselves that all the time. And what we need to do is to switch those neural pathways off and create new ones that are telling us, we're telling ourselves that we are enough, that we are good at our jobs, that we are a brilliant parent. We need to tell ourselves that, because if we don't, we're never going to switch off those negative thoughts in our head. So I challenge you to think of 3 or 5 affirmations that you could say to yourself every single day. If you want some kind of help in creating them, if you just Google affirmations, there are loads and loads of websites out there that will kind of give you a bit of guidance. But the important thing about affirmations is to make sure that you believe them, that they feel believable to you. So think about, things that I say I am valued and helpful. I am attracting, not chasing. What belongs to me will find me. I am full of joy, because those are the things that I believe, and that's why I say them. The second thing that you can do to start building your confidence is to have a badass list. So that's almost like a CV, but it is just a list of all your accomplishments, that things that you've done over the years that you're really proud of. And they don't have to be work related. They can be things like, I traveled around the world when I was 19 on my own. I became a single mum. I managed work and the school run, and when we start building this list, we can really start to see what amazing people we are. Because we forget about all the things that we've done over the years. And having them written down and pinned up somewhere is a great reminder of the fact that you are enough, that you're an awesome person, and that you are worthy. So I would, if you've got time, write a badass list, pin it up somewhere, and just look at it every single day. And again, it's a great thing to do with children. My daughter is a preteen, so she's in that very kind of anxious, self-conscious sort of frame of mind. And so I've got her to write a list of all the things that she's done, all the things that she's achieved, you know, all the things that she's proud of, to remind herself that she is enough. Another tip is, when we have those negative thoughts, and we have them all the time, is to give that voice a name. So one of my clients calls the voice in her head Janice, after the character from Friends with that really annoying voice. And when Janice comes in and says, oh, you know, oh, that's not very good, is it? We haven't done a very good job of that. She will just say, thank you, Janice. Thank you for being there. I don't need you right now, but thank you. And just kind of gently push her out of your head and replace that thought with a positive one. That's a really good way of, and it also means that we become more aware of that voice in our heads, that voice that's telling us we're rubbish. And the more we know and recognise that it's there, the easier it is to switch it off. So again, it's about creating kind of new pathways to your brain that are positive and not negative. And a tip, a really kind of quick, if you need a quick confidence boost, if you've got a presentation at work, or you've got a meeting that you're quite nervous about, a really good thing to do is to adopt the superhero pose. So hands on hips, feet, you know, I can't, I'm sitting down, but hands on hips, feet out, legs out, and just stand up tall, and just do that for a couple of minutes and breathe, deep breathing, and it just changes your state. It just puts you in a more confident frame of mind. And you know, it's something you can go off, and you can do it in the loo. You know, you can go off if you've got a meeting and just do it in the loo. And there's actually a really good YouTube video about this very thing. It's about 10 minutes long. If you just Google, not YouTube, what's it called? TED Talks. There's a really good TED Talk. It's really short. It's about 20 minutes, and it's just talking about the superhero pose and how it can really help boost your confidence. And another really quick confidence boost is to listen to music and just have a little kitchen dance. I do that a lot. If I've had a bad day, if I'm having a bad morning, something's gone wrong, I'll put some music on, I'll choose a really uplifting song, and I'll just dance around the kitchen, and it immediately changes your mood. I've got a playlist called Feel Good, I think I've called it, and it's just full of songs that are feel good songs that make you feel good and can just change state, get you in a better frame of mind. So that's the end of my slides, and these are just some ways that you can work with me. I have one-to-one coaching packages. I have a free Facebook community called Reclaim Your Life After Divorce. I have a group coaching program that I'm launching in September, and this is my Instagram handle, Sam Patel Coaching. And I also have a free download on my website with tips on how you can start rebuilding your life, and that's on sampatelcoaching.com. Sorry, I feel like I've raced through that, but
no, that was great. Thank you. I loved the superhero pose.
It really works. It really does. You feel a bit, you know, the first time you do it, you're like, oh, this is a bit weird, but it just helps change your mood.
I think it's good. I loved what you said about music. I do quite a lot of driving for work, and I love like listening to a real like feel good motivational song by myself, having a little like sing song and a dance, but it really does change. Yeah, absolute game changer, isn't it? So
it is a game changer, and actually it's something that you could do every morning. Is just when you get up and you're making your cup of tea, is to just put a, you know, really uplifting song on, and it immediately kind of puts you in a good frame of mind. It's kind of setting you up for the day. So yeah, I recommend listening to, you know, a song every morning.
someone's just sent me a message and said, have you got any tips if you're doing stuff for your mood, but your kids maybe are having a kind of tough mindset mood day, like any things to bring them along with you?
Dancing is a really good way. So get them involved in the, you know, have a little kitchen disco, get them to choose a song. That's a really good way to kind of instantly change mood. Affirmations are a really good way to help kids kind of change their moods as well. So get them to kind of, you know, say, I don't know, I am a whatever, what, you know, you could think of, you make them personal to you, but they can really help empower kids and get them, you know, to kind of give them a bit of a mood boost.
I love that. Wendy's just said, I'm a kitchen dancer. It's brilliant. My youngest often joins me and we have the best time. I think that's so nice because it is, isn't it? Like kids love a dance, like they love music, love getting involved.
Yeah, yeah.
Someone's just said, I'd like to know more about how you achieve acceptance. In my case, my ex has basically abandoned our children and I find this really hard to accept.
Yeah, that, I mean, that is, it is incredibly hard to accept. I think what you need to really think about how, not how you're feeling about what's happened, and how much of an effect that's having on your life. And I'm sure that, you know, there's a lot of anger there and a lot of hurt, and I, you know, I completely understand that, and I completely understand that it's a really hard thing to get over. But you have to think about you and what impact it is having on your life and your mood. Because, like I said in my presentation, if you hang on to those feelings, the only person really that it's affecting is you. You know, your ex has you know, has moved on, and I know how hard that is to accept. I know how hard it is, but you have to think about you and how you want your life to move on. And if you're walking around with just this, like I did, with that knot of anger and hurt all the time, the only person really that it's affecting is you. So that's what I would focus on. I would focus on how, the impact that it's having on you, and start with acceptance. You know, if you, forgiveness may be a long way off, but if you accept the situation and accept that he has abandoned your children, you know, which is awful, and I'm so sorry that's happened to you. But once you accept that, it does give you a bit of it frees up your emotions, and you can start to feel a bit happier.
I think that I agree with what you said, and I think by no means am I a qualified coach, but Rachel, just on kind of what you said, so I'm a solo parent, and my child's father left when I was pregnant and made the decision really early on. And the best thing I ever did was I stopped trying to understand it, because I spent so long trying in my head to be like, I don't understand why you would make that decision. Like, I don't understand how you could live with yourself. I don't understand this. And actually, when I stopped trying to understand why he thought that, I found it easier to accept, because I'm never going to understand, because I don't get it. I don't get how you could not want your child, you know, because I love my child. But I found that quite key for me personally into accepting it, because I'm never going to understand. It's never going to make sense to me.
No.
And I've got to let that go.
Yeah. And I mean, luckily my ex-husband is a part of my daughter's life. But even when he left, I could not understand how somebody could just leave their family. I just couldn't understand it. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? But like you said, you've got to stop trying to work out why they did that, because you can't control how somebody else feels. You have no control over that. The only thing that you can control is the way you feel. And if you can, if you don't, if you let those feelings just eat you up, you are never ever going to be free.
No, I agree. I think that's really good advice. Someone has just messaged me and said they have a question around family therapy for a parent and a child. Any ideas of kind of where to get started with this? Is this something that might be helpful? I guess as opposed to just like for both of you, the therapy kind of side of thing and counselling side.
Yeah. So I'm not a therapist. I'm a coach. Yeah, I mean, it can be really beneficial. I had therapy after my my ex-husband left, and it did help. It kind of allowed me that space to kind of talk about my feelings. And I think family therapy could be, really beneficial. So I don't know, where you live, but I would just start asking for recommendations for family therapists, and see if anyone's got any recommendations. There's also lots of directories that for therapists. There's something called the Counselling Foundation, who might be able to recommend someone in your area. But I think it's just really important that you talk about what's happened and not bottle it up. So therapy could definitely work.
No, that's brilliant. I think one thing is totally up to you, but a lot of people on the Frollo app have been through therapy, been through counselling, so might be worth kind of reaching out to the community or reaching out in your local, the group chats and seeing, because they might be able to give you a recommendation from their own experience. Someone has also said, is it okay just to accept the situation or your ex-partner, but never actually get to that forgiveness stage?
Yes, it is. But what I would say is that if you accept, you will eventually forgive. It might take a while, and you might be very resistant to that idea. I was so resistant. I never forgive him for what he did. But I go back to that quote, that you're forgiving for you, you're not forgiving them. That's the important kind of distinction. So it is perfectly okay to accept, because once you've accepted, you're kind of on the path to forgiveness anyway. But it might take you a while.
Someone else has sent me a private message, and they said they are really early on in their breakup, as in recent weeks. What would your top tip be for someone kind of at the very start of their journey, looking, for kind of to improve their mindset, but perhaps thinking of doing all these different things is just completely overwhelming? Because when you're first in it, isn't it? The whole thing is very overwhelming. It's a shock. What would your kind of best advice for that person?
It's completely overwhelming, and I would say the first thing is to be kind to yourself, is to look after yourself, make sure that your self-care is as good as it can be. I know for me, one of the first things that kind of went was my diet. I just didn't eat. I just stopped eating because I was so stressed. I lived on Rice Krispies excuse me, for a few weeks. So I would say, make sure that you're looking after yourself, give yourself, have some nice nourishing food, and talking is so important. We need that connection. We're human beings and we need to connect. So I would say talk, have a couple of close friends that you feel that you can kind of offload to. Don't try not to kind of share with lots of different people, because all that happens is you get lots of different opinions, and that's really overwhelming if you've got one friend saying this, another saying this. So just have a couple of friends that you feel really comfortable with talking and sharing with, and use them. Look after yourself, definitely. Make sure you're eating healthily, try and get sleep. Exercise is a really good way of getting rid of that kind of a lot of that negativity. For me, I have to exercise every single day, because it just helps me. It just helps my mindset so much. So if you are able to exercise, even if it's just to go out for a walk. And the other thing I would recommend you do is you just create a joy list. So that's just a list of things that you love doing. And they can be really small things, like a hot cup of tea. Because, God, when we're parents of young children, how often do we have a hot cup of tea? Listening to music, going for a walk, reading a book, having a bubble bath. Little things can make a big difference. So yes, that's what I would recommend that you do. And I'm sorry that you're going through that, but please make sure that you talk.
I think that's so true. Like, some of what you just talked through, it's the little, like, the obvious things, isn't it? But they're then the first things to go when you are in that situation. They're the things we all know, but they're the first things that you just go, I don't need to eat, I don't need to drink, I don't need to do that.
Yeah. So I don't have time for that. I've got, all these other things to do. I'm feeling really overwhelmed by the breakup. But we have to try and make sure that they don't go from our lives. We really need them in our lives. And if you can, say, have a joy list of about 20 things, and try to do at least 3 things on the list every single day. And like I said, they don't have to be time consuming. They don't have to, cost money. They can just be really small things that make a big difference.
No, brilliant, thank you. And I think I've got one last question. Someone has said, through your own personal journey and your kind of career journey as a coach, what is the biggest thing you've learned?
The biggest thing I've learned is, oh gosh, that's really hard. I think the biggest thing I've learned is to not let other people's opinions change the way you are. So basically it's about judgment. It's not worry about what other people think. For me, that was a huge thing. I felt very judged a lot of the time. I didn't tell anyone that my ex-husband had left for a really long time, because I was ashamed of what they thought. And then I suddenly, I did a lot of work on my mindset, and just suddenly thought that why am I letting these people affect the way I show up every day? So I let that go. So let go of judgment. Don't worry about what other people think.
I love that. I think that's so powerful, because judgment is definitely something I'm sure everyone faces, but when you're a single parent, it's louder, the judgment. So
it's much louder, and often you find that if you feel like you're being judged, it's often because you judge other people. So they're really linked, because you do it. So therefore, if you're doing it, then they're doing it to you, if that makes sense. And once you just let go of that, when it was a book I read called The Judgment Detox, and it's a really good book, but it was quite hard to hear that, if you're worried about judgment, it's because you're judgmental yourself. It's quite hard to hear that when someone says, but you're judgmental. But thinking about it, I probably was, and I've let it all go. I'm so unjudgmental.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that is all the questions I have. Some lovely comments in the chat, just people saying thank you so much for the session, really helpful. Danielle's just said she loves the joy list idea. I'm definitely taking that. Love the joy list. I think that's such a good idea. whether you're going through a divorce or not. Like, it's a great,
just generally, you know, there's so much awful stuff happening in the world at the moment, and it can become, it's a lot, you know, the world feels really heavy at the moment. And I think having a few things that, you know, that make us feel joyful every day is going to make a massive difference to our, you know, to our mental well-being, you know, and just to our everyday lives.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely, like, I've loved this session, but that's my big takeaway. Loved that, like, thought that was great. So, but no, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much, Sam. Absolutely brilliant. And people definitely agreeing, saying they really enjoyed it, got a lot out of it. So yeah, really brilliant session. All of this has been recorded, all of Sam's links will be on there, and I will share it on the Frollo app either later tonight or tomorrow, with all of Sam's links of where to find her. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming.
Thank you, everyone, and go and write your joy list.